That sounded like a recording. Yep. Hi, TransByDef. It's Jenna. And I have a special guest this week.
Hello,
LV.
everyone.
I think you know her.
I am LV. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. For those people that know me, hey. For those people that don't know me, hey. We are sweating out here.
Yeah, it's 92 degrees in New Jersey today, and a little bit humid. And it was nice and cool till she brought on the... This week's topic is when does transition end? And LV and I have been talking about, well, if you're going to talk about when does transition end, you really have to back up to
the beginning.
Yes.
And where do you define the beginning? You know? I mean, I think the go-to for us T people is to say the beginning started medically. So I started HRT. I went to a gender therapist. These things that are more in the medical realm,
right?
You know, it's the beginning. But is it the beginning, or is it more subjective?
Well, it comes down to, is transition really just the medical portion,
right,
or is there a whole lot more to it than just
more
the medical?
Holistic, the entire person, you know.
So one of the things that we were talking about before we were driving in the car was, you know, does transition begin when I was a young boy back then,
right,
and when I was skipping rope with the neighborhood girls, or fearful of going
right
into my sister's bedroom for fear of being found out, but I was a boy. But the question was, what was I doing in their room?
Exactly. Or when I used to tie an afghan around my waist and act like a hula girl as my brother would play guitar. I mean, where does it begin? Where did my expression of my authentic self begin? That's kind of where I define where my transition began.
You had a hula thing on?
I had a hula skirt and I used to dance with it.
I slowly move away.
I push her away quickly.
So
yeah, so it's just, you know, and so you can't really, again, figure out if it ends if you don't know where it began. And I think what we kind of established just by talking this short little bit is that it's not clear cut to me.
Right. And I don't think, you know, back in that time there was no such thing as transition. Right. It was more of like, why do I do what I do, and why don't I fit in with the normative of the people around me? Why aren't I with the boys playing football at the school? Right.
I didn't know what, you know, T was until I was 22 years old. Before that, I was like, I'm different, and I was trying to find different names. And back when I was, you know, really little, I just knew I was different, and it was okay. And then, as you say, as you get older, you begin learning that it's not okay to be different in the way that we are different.
That's the stuff that you keep to yourself, that you don't tell anybody that you're feeling back then.
So, you know, and so if we go a little bit forward, how does something like that end? And so again, we go back to the medical definition that my experience, transition experience, ends with my gender confirmation surgery. Then we're done. Right? That's what, when you watch Oprah or you watch these different shows that they have different T people on their shows, it's all about the surgery. And how do you feel now?
Yeah.
That everything has ended and you're happy and you're on top of the world, which is true. I mean, you are on top of the world for a while.
And then they slip now and then call you your old gender or something.
But what they're intimating is that it's done.
And you're not done.
No, I don't advocate for ever being done with transition.
Yeah. You know, I think life itself is a journey of transition from the point you're born until they shovel the dirt in on you at the end.
And it's like the Mighty Python. I'm not quite done yet.
I'm not done yet.
Thank you.
So I think that I was transitioning as a youth, even though I didn't realize what was happening. And as I grew older and became more questioning, then that feeling of being different started to come into play, and that was long before the medical process started, or going to seek professional help because things were falling apart at the seams, you know?
Yeah, you just kind of had to do the best you could with what you had.
Right, you deal with the cards that you're dealt, and then you move forward. So eventually, in time, the medical portion of the transition begins,
The altered state of reality, as I like to call that, between your first, with your HRT, once you're prescribed hormones and you're on those, to your GCS, if that's what you choose to do. So we're speaking about, we're post-operative T people, so we can only speak.
I am? You gave me away. I am.
She is. So I always have to be really careful because I'm speaking from one perspective. And so for me, my goal was to have GCS, so I have to say that obviously first of all. So between the time of my first experiences with hormones to my GCS, you're in this altered state of reality. The rules do not apply. You're defying the normative, and everything's you're on top of the world, right?
And transition for you is going to be different than it is for me, or for you, or for somebody else.
But
so
would you agree that it's different? Like the rules do not, like the rules of life kind of are different when you're going through transition. I'm not saying that they're better or worse, but things are just different.
Different. Yeah.
And it could be worse, could be better, it could be none of the above, but it's different because you're doing something that again is defying the normative.
Outside the normative.
So, after that, when you think you're done,
You're not
I
done.
thought I was done.
Yeah, transition, a lot of people think that transition is over after
Baby,
the knives are all put away.
it just began.
Yeah, there is no such thing.
No.
I think that both of us agree, and I remember when LV had her surgery, and I kept saying, wait, because it's complete. I don't know how many times I told you that.
And I didn't listen to you.
No,
I was
nobody
like,
does.
No, it's not. I'm going to be fine. This is what I'm going to do. I'm validated. I am woman. Hear me roar. And that's true, and I was. But guess what? The thing is, what we've kind of deduced here as well is that during this time between hormones and your GCS, this altered state, you're going through puberty at like lightning fast usually.
Not only puberty, but you're going through the other half,
Exactly.
too.
And so after that puberty is done with, you have to kind of start living life again in a very mundane sort of way.
Right.
And then the challenge of assimilating back into society as
Now you have
your
put all
authentic self.
The puzzle was blown up, and now we're putting all the
We're
pieces
putting the pieces back together.
again. Yep.
And I felt so alienated in those
Yes.
times because, and I don't want to scare anyone, but I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. I didn't fit
because
in
you
the
don't.
community because, let's just say, the post-operative part of our community, which is already a small portion of the population to begin with, post-operative is even smaller. So knowing a lot of post-operative people is hard to, locally.
And
You feel isolated.
sure, and then there's and for us, that would also come into play for somebody that is going to a certain point and not having surgery.
Right.
Their transition goes up to this point, and then they're also at a place where they're different and they don't fit in.
Yeah.
So how do you, how do you rebuild yourself from that spot?
Right.
Because the rules of the game are all changed, and
Exactly.
you're going forward,
With
that,
different expectations
exploring
put on
life
you.
all over again.
Yeah, and you're coming outside the other end of the rabbit hole, and you're relearning how to live life, almost from infancy. You don't know quite how to get your bearings, and it's taken me 4 years, 3 years. I don't even remember how long it's been.
I remember her calling and saying, I'm not right. I'm not there. I'm not this. I'm not that. And you were, you'll be fine, honey. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Give time, and life experiences start to build again, and then your confidence and the new person that's evolving continues. Even that's after the knives have all been put away,
Yeah.
and your hormone levels are reduced to that of a genetic cis female.
Right.
And life begins again all over with new rules and a new playing field, and you still have to deal with the fact that you're not a cis woman and you never will be.
Yeah, and that is a topic for another time because
Yes, it
that
is.
is a whole topic. But for the purposes of this topic, it's okay. It's okay that we're different. Really.
No, you're different.
Well,
I'm
you're
normal.
insane. But I was, really quick. I was with my boyfriend, and he was just talking, and he was saying to me, I almost prefer to be with you. Not because it's sensationalized or anything else, but I like I like your body. I like how it is different than a cisgendered female's body, and I almost prefer it. So I don't know. I mean, you know, there's two sides to the coin.
Well, there's somebody for everybody.
Exactly.
I believe that, no matter whether you end up being heterosexual or bisexual or whatever you're going to be. That's a whole different
other thing.
Yep.
So where does it end, though? And we were in the car earlier, and we kind of might have figured out if there is an end of transition, and that would be if you decided to de-transition. Wouldn't that be the end of? Well, if we're talking about this logically, if you're to end transition, let's take out all the feeling around it. If someone got to a certain part of the road and said, "I'm turning back," whatever, would that be the end of transition?
That would be de-transitioning. You've stopped transition,
right?
At de-transitioning, and basically
so you're not transitioning anymore.
That's right, and you're not going forward
in that way.
Yes, yeah. You're not going forward, but are you going backwards? You're not.
Exactly.
I think they call that limbo.
Limbo, yeah. And again, there's no judgment for people that decide that this isn't right for them now or ever. You know,
and that could be because of employment opportunities.
Absolutely,
there's so many things that could cause a detransition.
Absolutely. And some people have to detransition multiple times before they get to their goal. I mean, that's the the horrifying kind of side of
And then their transmission may return to be going forward in this other spectrum, this other another direction that is not.
So what we've established here is that there's really no, and I hate when I say this, but there really is no right answer or wrong answer. I mean, you know, it's all about perspective.
And transition, like I said to you when you first had your surgery and everything is going to continue to morph and change for the rest of your life. Right. So transition really isn't, it's over. I mean, you know, the surgical part maybe, but how you develop and change as a person afterwards is a new thing.
And think about how cool that is, that you have now the ability to transition throughout life. Because before I started
It's Tyler.
It's Tyler. We have company.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi, Tyler. No, but anyway, really quickly. So before I transitioned and really figured out who I am, there was no transition.
Right.
Life was grayscale, stagnant. And now it's a blessing that I get to transition throughout life multiple times as a person because I'm moving. There was no movement before.
Right.
Now there's movement.
And there's direction.
Absolutely.
With answers being able to be answered.
Oh my God, are those flowers?
One for the pretty blonde. Hello.
This is Tyler. This is our buddy Tyler.
Hello.
Say hi to you two.
Hello, you two.
Thank you, hon.
So on that note, we're like pageant girls right now.
She won the most likely.
This bitch is dirty. This bitch is dirty. She when I glue my butt cheeks together, she put a Rogaine or whatever it's Nair.
So we hope that this will confuse you more than not.
Absolutely.
and if we didn't do a good job confusing you, let us know and we will attempt
do it
to
again.
do it again.
Yeah. All right. Bye guys.